You know what we do to fakes in the Navy? We make sure everyone knows your face. The words cut through the humid afternoon air at Naval Base San Diego's main gate like a blade. Sailor Ethan Cross stood with his phone aimed at a woman in line, his voice loud enough to turn 15 heads. The security checkpoint, normally a blur of tired faces and routine badge scans during the 4:30 p.m. shift change, had frozen into a tableau of sudden attention. Kate Brennan stood 3 people back from the scanner, a tactical jacket draped over her shoulders. The trident pin on her chest caught the California sun. In her right hand, a black gear bag with markings that made several veterans in line do double takes. She didn't flinch at the accusation. Her eyes remained forward, her breathing measured in a pattern so precise it seemed rehearsed. 4 counts in, 4 counts hold, 4 counts out. "Hey, I'm talking to you," Ethan pressed forward, his boots scuffing concrete. His voice carried that particular edge of someone performing for an audience he knew was gathering. "That pin, that bag, you didn't earn those." The checkpoint line had stopped moving entirely. A specialist checking IDs glanced up from her station, confusion crossing her face. 2 lance corporals whispered to each other. An older man in civilian clothes, his posture revealing decades of military bearing, set down his duffel and watched with narrowed eyes. Kate set her bag on the ground. The movement was deliberate, controlled. Her grip on the handle showed something most civilians wouldn't notice, a specific spacing between thumb and index finger that spoke to years of weapons handling. The bag touched concrete without a sound, positioned exactly parallel to her right foot. "I said you're a fake." Ethan's volume increased. His phone stayed trained on her face. "Stolen valor. That's a federal crime, sweetheart." Still, Kate remained silent. She straightened, hands falling to her sides in a posture that might have looked casual to the untrained eye. But Chief Warrant Officer Bill Tasker, standing 6 people back, recognized the stance immediately. It wasn't civilian relaxation. It was the at-ease position, executed with the unconscious precision of someone who'd stood in formation more times than they could count. The security guard at the front scanner, a young petty officer 3rd class, keyed his radio with uncertain hands. We've got a situation at Checkpoint Alpha. Possible stolen valor case. Need MP support." Ethan heard the call and smiled. "That's right, get the MPs. We'll see how tough you are when they're reading you your rights." He stepped closer, phone camera adjusting focus. "Bet you thought you'd just walk through here wearing that gear, huh? Thought nobody would notice?" The crowd had swelled to over 20 people now. Some held out their own phones, others just stared. The energy shifted from curiosity to something uglier, a mob mentality crystallizing around the loudest voice. Kate's eyes tracked to Ethan for the first time. The look lasted less than 2 seconds, but something in it made him take half a step back before his bravado reasserted itself. When she spoke, her voice was quiet enough that only the closest people heard it. "Run the biometric check. You'll want command here." The words were strange enough that several people exchanged confused glances. Biometric check? Command? The phrasing wasn't what a panicked civilian would use. Ethan laughed, the sound harsh. "Oh, we're running every check there is, trust me. And when they prove you're some wannabe who bought that gear online, I'm making sure this video goes everywhere." He glanced at his phone screen, satisfaction crossing his features. "Already got 200 views. Everyone needs to see what a fake looks like." The older man, Chief Tasker, took a slow step forward. His eyes weren't on Ethan. They were fixed on Kate's hands, on the way she stood, on the controlled rhythm of her breathing that never wavered despite the attention. Something nagged at his memory, a recognition that hadn't quite clicked into place. "MP unit en route, ETA 3 minutes, the radio crackled. Kate reached up slowly, unzipped her jacket halfway. The motion revealed a gray athletic shirt underneath, the kind sold in Navy exchange stores by the thousands. Nothing identifying, nothing remarkable, except for a faint discoloration near the collar, a pattern Tasker recognized as the distinctive marks left by gear straps worn for extended periods. The kind of wear that developed over years, not days. "You comfortable?" Ethan asked, mockery thick in his voice. "Because in about 3 minutes, you're going to be in cuffs. Hope that phone call you get is to a good lawyer." Someone in the crowd laughed. Another voice chimed in, "Can't believe someone would fake being a SEAL. That's low, right?" Ethan's confidence grew with the support. "Especially a woman. Like, come on. We all know there's barely any females who make it through buds, and you think you can just throw on the pin and..." Are you done? Kate's voice cut through his monologue, still quiet, still controlled, but with an edge that made the sentence feel like a door closing. Ethan's jaw tightened. I'm done when the MPs haul you away. The sound of boots on pavement announced their arrival before anyone saw them. MP Sergeant Derek Hollis appeared around the corner of the checkpoint building, his uniform crisp despite the heat, his expression already set in the particular mix of authority and irritation that came with responding to gate incidents. Behind him, a junior MP hustled to keep pace. Who called this in? Derek's voice carried the weight of someone who had broken up too many checkpoint arguments to have much patience left. The young petty officer raised a hand. I did, Sergeant. That woman there, the one in the tactical jacket. Civilian claims she's impersonating military, specifically a SEAL. He pointed at Kate. Derek's eyes followed the gesture, taking in the trident pin, the gear bag, the woman standing with unusual stillness in the center of what had become a semicircle of onlookers. He walked toward her with the measured pace of someone conducting official business. Ma'am, I'm going to need to see some identification. Kate reached into her jacket's inner pocket, movement slow and visible. She produced a driver's license, standard California issue, and held it out. Derek took it, examined the photo, looked at her face, then down at the details. His expression shifted slightly. This doesn't list any military affiliation, he said. No, Kate replied. It doesn't. But you're wearing a Navy SEAL trident pin and carrying what appears to be SEAL-issued gear. Derek's tone remained professional, but his body language had shifted into interrogation mode. Ma'am, I need you to understand that impersonating military personnel, especially special operations, is a federal offense under the Stolen Valor Act. You're looking at potential fines and imprisonment. Ethan, standing to the side with his phone still recording, practically vibrated with vindication. Told you. Fake. Derek held up a hand without looking at him. Sir, step back and let me handle this. He turned his attention back to Kate. Ma'am, where did you get that pin? It was issued to me, Kate said. Issued. Derek's skepticism was palpable. By whom? Naval Special Warfare Command. The answer should have been absurd. A woman with a civilian license claiming NISORS issued her a trident should have been immediately, obviously false. But something in the way she said it, the complete absence of defensive energy or nervous justification, made Derek pause. You're saying you're an active SEAL, he said slowly. I'm saying you should run the biometric check. We will. Derek gestured to his junior partner. Rodriguez, call Lieutenant Parker. Tell him we need duty officer presence for a stolen valor arrest. He looked back at Kate. Ma'am, I'm placing you under arrest for violation of federal law. You have the right to remain silent. I know my rights, Kate said. Her breathing remained steady. 4 counts. 4 counts. 4 counts. Derek continued the Miranda warning anyway, his voice carrying across the checkpoint. The crowd had grown larger, drawn by the spectacle. Phones captured every angle. Someone whispered that it was already blowing up on the base Facebook group. Chief Tasker watched Kate's hands as Derek spoke. They remained loose at her sides. No tension, no fidgeting. When Derek asked her to turn around to be cuffed, she complied with a precision that seemed almost rehearsed. But it wasn't the compliance that caught Tasker's attention. It was the way she turned, weight shifting through her hips in a movement pattern that wasn't civilian, wasn't even standard infantry. It was something else, something he'd seen before in very specific contexts. Those aren't civilian hands, Tasker muttered to himself. The man next to him, a young sailor with fresh boot camp posture, heard and glanced over. What? Tasker didn't answer. His eyes tracked the way Kate held her wrists together behind her back, the exact spacing and angle that made cuffing easier for the officer. Most people didn't know how to do that. Most people who'd been arrested learned the hard way. But Kate positioned herself like someone who'd been through the procedure 100 times, from both sides. Derek secured the cuffs, checking the tension with professional efficiency. We're going to transport you to the detention facility for processing. You'll be held there until Commander Stone arrives, Kate said. Derek stopped. What? When the biometric scan triggers the Alpha 9 protocol, Commander Stone will be notified. He'll be here within minutes of the alert. The statement was so specific, so utterly confident, that Derek exchanged a glance with Rodriguez. Alpha 9 wasn't common knowledge. It wasn't even accessible to most MPs. The protocol existed for situations involving personnel with classifications above standard security clearances. How do you know about Alpha 9? Derek asked carefully. Kate looked at him with those steady eyes. Run the scan. Lieutenant Parker arrived in a Navy vehicle, his presence adding another layer of official authority to what was already becoming the most watched checkpoint incident of the month. He was a lean man in his mid-30s, with the efficient movements of someone who prided himself on handling problems quickly and by the book. "Status?" he asked Derek. "Civilian female, no military ID, wearing SEAL insignia and carrying NISF gear. She claims it was issued to her. Wants us to run a biometric check. Says it'll trigger some protocol." Derek's skepticism was clear in every word. Parker looked at Kate, at the trident pin, at the gear bag. His expression hardened. "Naval Special Warfare takes stolen valor very seriously. We've had multiple incidents this year of people trying to trade on the reputation of our operators. Each one diminishes what those men sacrifice." "And women," Kate said quietly. Parker's jaw just tightened. "There are female SEALs, yes, very few, and I'm confident that none of them would be stupid enough to show up at a gate without proper identification." He turned to Derek. "Process her fully. I want photos, fingerprints, biometric scan, the complete package. We're going to make sure this case is airtight before we hand her over to federal prosecutors." If you've ever been judged by appearance alone, you know this feeling. Hit that like button, because this story is about to flip in ways you won't believe. And if you want to support stories of silent strength, the thanks button means the world. The detention facility sat 50 yards from the main gate, a squat concrete building that existed primarily for holding people during processing before they were transferred to more permanent facilities. Inside, the fluorescent lights gave everything a washed-out quality. Derek led Kate to a processing room while Rodriguez prepared the equipment. Ethan's video had already gone viral within the base community, 600 likes in 15 minutes. The comments section filled with outrage, with people tagging friends, with sailors sharing their own stories of encountering stolen valor. Several people mentioned they were coming to the detention facility to watch the processing themselves. Parker stood in the corner of the room, arms crossed, expression grim. "Understand that what you've done isn't just illegal. It's an insult to every man and woman who earned that pin through blood and dedication. BUDS has a 75% attrition rate. The ones who make it through give everything they have. And you think you can just wear their symbol like it's a costume?" Kate said nothing. She sat in the metal chair Derek had indicated, her cuffed hands resting in her lap, her breathing still following that precise 4-count pattern. Derek opened a case containing the biometric scanner, a sophisticated device that would capture fingerprints, palm prints, and retinal scans for cross-reference against military and federal databases. "This will tell us everything we need to know," he said, setting up the equipment. "If you've ever been in the system for anything, any prior arrests, any military service, anything, it'll pop." "I know how it works," Kate said. "Right." Derek's tone suggested he thought she was bluffing. "Let's start with basic information. Full name?" "Kate Brennan." "Date of birth?" She provided it. Derek typed the information into the system, then picked up the fingerprint scanner. "Right hand first. Press each finger on the glass when I tell you." Kate complied with the same precise movements she'd shown throughout the entire process. Each fingerprint was captured cleanly on the first attempt. No need for the typical second or third tries most people required. Derek's expression grew increasingly confused as the process continued. "You've done this before," he observed. "Yes." "Military service?" "Yes." "Then why doesn't your license show?" "Run the scan," Kate said again. Derek finished the fingerprints and moved to the retinal scanner. "Look here, keep your eye open." The machine hummed as it captured the image, processing the unique patterns. "Okay, that's done. Now we wait for the system to search." The computer screen showed a progress bar. Parker pushed off the wall and came closer, interested despite himself. Rodriguez stood by the door, one hand near his radio out of habit. "Usually takes about 30 seconds for a basic search," Derek explained to Parker. "If she's in any database, civilian or military, it'll flag." The progress bar crept forward. 10 seconds, 20. Kate's breathing remained steady, her eyes on the middle distance, appearing neither worried nor relieved, just waiting. 30 seconds passed. The bar completed. The screen flashed, searching. Derek frowned. "That's odd. Usually it either hits immediately or comes back negative. A continued search means..." The screen changed. Everything changed. Red flooded the monitor. Text appeared in capital letters. "Clearance level restricted. Contact command immediately." An alarm, quiet but insistent, began beeping from the computer. The printer, which had been silent, suddenly whirred to life and began spitting out page after page of text, each one stamped with security classifications Derek had never seen before. What the hell? Derek stared at the screen. What is this? Parker grabbed the first page from the printer. His face went pale as he read. This is Alpha 9. I've heard of it, but I've never seen it activated. What does it mean? Rodriguez asked from the doorway. It means we just scanned someone with a security clearance above our access level, Parker said slowly. His eyes moved from the page to Kate, confusion and the first hints of alarm crossing his features. Way above. Derek reached for his radio, but before he could key it, the device crackled to life on its own. All units, be advised. Commander Stone en route to Gate Detention Facility. ETA 2 minutes. Clear the area for command presence. The room went silent except for the printer, still churning out classified documentation that none of them had clearance to read. Derek looked at the cuffs on Kate's wrists, at the trident pin on her jacket draped over the chair back, at the absolute calm in her expression. "Who are you?" he asked, and this time the question carried no accusation, only confusion. Kate met his eyes. "Someone you just arrested for wearing their own gear." Outside the detention facility, the crowd had grown. Word had spread through the base like wildfire. People who had seen Ethan's video came to witness the processing in person. Several sailors gathered near the windows, trying to catch a glimpse inside. The energy was celebratory, justice about to be served against someone who disrespected the uniform. Chief Tasker stood separate from the main group, closer to the building's entrance. He couldn't see inside, but he could see the expressions of the MPs visible through the window. He watched Derek's face change from confident to confused to something approaching alarm. That told him more than any announcement could. A Navy sedan appeared at the checkpoint, moving faster than regulations typically allowed. It bore the flags indicating senior officer presence. The vehicle didn't slow for the normal security check. It was waved through immediately. Commander Jacob Stone emerged before the car fully stopped, his uniform bearing the insignia of an 06, the kind of rank that made junior personnel straighten unconsciously in his presence. "Where is she?" Stone's voice carried absolute authority. The young petty officer who had called in the original incident pointed toward the detention building with a shaking hand. "Inside, sir. They're processing her now." Stone moved toward the entrance with ground-eating strides. The crowd parted without needing to be told. As he passed Tasker, the older warrant officer caught a glimpse of the commander's expression. It wasn't anger at the alleged imposter. It was something else, something that looked like concern mixed with barely suppressed fury. But the fury wasn't directed at Kate. Inside the processing room, Rodriguez's radio crackled again. "Commander Stone entering the building. All personnel stand by." Derek stood at attention reflexively. Parker did the same. Even Kate, still cuffed and seated, straightened her spine in a way that suggested decades of conditioned response to senior officer presence. The door opened. Commander Stone stepped inside, his eyes immediately finding Kate. His jaw tightened. He looked at the cuffs, at the biometric scanner, at the pages still printing classification warnings, and his expression shifted through several emotions in rapid succession. "Director Brennan," he said, and his voice carried a weight that made both Derek and Parker flinch. "Why didn't you identify yourself?" "Director." The word hung in the air like a bomb waiting to detonate. Derek's mind raced. Director of what? How did a commander know a civilian arrestee? Why was Alpha 9 triggered? The pieces refused to fit together into any pattern that made sense. Outside, pressed against the window, several people had their phones out, recording. They could see Commander Stone inside, could see the sudden change in body language from everyone in the room, but they couldn't hear the conversation. The footage would later show the exact moment when confusion became realization, became horror on the faces of the MPs. Stone turned to Parker, his voice dropping to a tone that was somehow more frightening for its control. "Lieutenant, show me the scan results." Parker moved to the computer with jerky motions, pulling up the screen he'd been trying to make sense of for the last 2 minutes. Stone leaned in, scrolled through several pages of dense text, and his expression grew darker with each line. "Sergeant Hollis," Stone said without looking away from the screen, "remove those cuffs, now." "Sir, Derek started. "Now." Derek fumbled for his keys, hands shaking slightly as he unlocked Kate's cuffs. They came away to reveal faint marks on her wrists where the metal had pressed. She rubbed them absently, still not speaking. Stone pulled a tablet from his jacket, swiped through several screens, and turned it toward Parker and Derek. "Do you recognize this person?" The image showed Kate in full tactical gear, face partially obscured by equipment, standing with a team of operators. The background was digitally blurred, but the professionalism of the photo was undeniable. This wasn't some photoshopped fake. This was official military documentation. "That's her," Derek said weakly. Stone swiped to another image. This one showed Kate in a different setting, standing next to high-ranking officers Derek didn't recognize, all of them in a room that looked like a command center. Another swipe, another image. Kate with a different team, different gear, same unmistakable presence. "These are classified photographs," Stone said. "From operations I don't have clearance to know details about. What I do know is that Director Brennan has been running a security audit of this base, an audit I requested after we identified a potential breach in our personnel database last month." The words landed like physical blows. Derek felt his stomach drop. Rodriguez had gone completely still by the door. Parker's face had transitioned from pale to ashen. "She came through this gate as a test," Stone continued, "to see how your security team would handle a high-value impersonation scenario. Your procedures worked, barely. You called MPs. You detained the suspect. You ran the biometric check." He paused. "But someone scrubbed her records from the local database before she arrived. That's not a system glitch. That's deliberate sabotage." The printer had finally stopped. Stone gathered the pages, his eyes scanning the security logs printed at the bottom of each sheet. "According to this, IT specialist Ryan Vega accessed the personnel database 4 hours ago and altered multiple classification files. Then he logged out of the system 3 minutes after Director Brennan's scan triggered Alpha 9. He left this building before I arrived." "Vega," Parker repeated. The name clearly meant something to him. "He's one of our regular IT contractors, has access to most of our systems for maintenance." "Had access," Stone corrected. "Where is he now?" Parker reached for his radio, but Stone held up a hand. He looked at Kate, who had stood from the chair and was rolling her shoulders to work out the stiffness from sitting cuffed. "Director, your assessment?" Stone asked. Kate spoke for the first time since Stone arrived, her voice carrying across the small room with quiet authority. "The mole panicked when Alpha 9 triggered. He knows that protocol automatically notifies Naval Criminal Investigative Service. He has a 30-minute window, maybe 45, before NCIS locks down the base completely. He'll try to exit during the shift change, blend in with the crowd leaving at 5 p.m. Stone checked his watch, 4:48 p.m. 12 minutes. "Less if he's smart," Kate said. "He'll use the north gate. Less traffic, newer guards who won't recognize him as someone who shouldn't be leaving during his shift." "You knew he'd run," Stone said. "It wasn't a question. I knew someone would. That's why we designed the audit this way. Give them enough pressure to make a mistake." Kate retrieved her jacket from the chair back, slipping it on with smooth motions. The trident pin caught the light again. "The question is whether we can catch him before he disappears." Derek found his voice, though it came out hoarse. "Ma'am, we didn't know. You weren't supposed to know," Kate cut him off, not unkindly. "That was the point, but now you do, and we're wasting time. Vega has information about every classified operative on this base. If he gets off base with that data, people die, not metaphorically, actually die." The weight of those words settled over the room. Outside, the crowd had grown larger, still waiting to see the fake seal get her comeuppance. They had no idea that the situation had transformed entirely, that the woman they'd mocked was actually the most dangerous person on the base. Stone pulled out his phone, typed rapidly. "Sending alert to all gates, Vega's photo and vehicle description, orders to stop but not approach." He looked at Derek. "You cuffed a federal Blacksite director. Now you get to help catch the actual criminal. Redemption starts now." Derek's training kicked in despite his shock. "Yes, sir. What do you need?" Before Stone could answer, Kate's hand went to her ear. Those watching realized for the first time that she wore a nearly invisible earpiece. "Tasker, you still have clearance for tactical comms?" Outside, Chief Tasker, who had been standing near the building entrance, straightened. His own hand went to his ear, touching a hearing aid that apparently wasn't just a hearing aid. "Always, ma'am." Several people in the crowd noticed the exchange and began recording more intently, confused about what they were witnessing. Kate's next words were quiet, but carried through the earpiece to Tasker and through the room's speakers that Stone had just activated. "North Gate, vehicle checkpoint. Vega drives a gray Honda Civic, license plate 7 Charlie Delta 529. Stop him. Non-lethal only. Procedure Delta. Understood, ma'am. Tasker was already moving toward the parking area, his pace shifting from the careful walk of an older man to something much more purposeful. The room's dynamic had completely inverted. Derek, Parker R., and Rodriguez stood awkwardly, unsure of their roles now that the person they had arrested was giving orders to a warrant officer and coordinating with a commander. Stone seemed comfortable with it, his body language suggesting this wasn't the first time he'd watched Kate work. "Lieutenant Parker," Kate said, turning her attention to the duty officer, "that video that's currently going viral on the base Facebook group. I need it taken down, and I need the IP addresses of everyone who shared it. Some of those people might not realize it, but they've just spread classified personnel information across an unsecured network." Parker's face somehow went even paler. "Ma'am, there are probably 500 shares by now. Then you have 500 people to interview," Kate said without sympathy. "Start with the original poster. Sailor Ethan Cross. Where is he?" "Outside, ma'am. In the crowd. Get him. Bring him inside. Do not let him leave this base." Parker moved toward the door with the desperation of someone trying to salvage a career that had just gone off a cliff. As he exited, the crowd outside surged forward, trying to see inside. Through the doorway, voices carried. "What's happening? Why's the commander here? Did you see Parker's face? Something's wrong." Rodriguez, still standing by the door, looked between Kate and Stone. "Sir, ma'am, what should I do?" Stone answered before Kate could. "Get to the north gate. Support Chief Tasker. Vega is not to leave this base. If he refuses to stop, you're authorized to disable his vehicle. Clear?" "Clear, sir." Rodriguez practically ran from the room. That left Kate, Stone, and Derek in the processing room, surrounded by classified printouts and the evidence of a security breach that had just been exposed in the worst possible way. Derek cleared his throat. "Ma'am, I need to apologize." "Later," Kate said. She was checking her phone now, scrolling through what appeared to be security feeds. "Right now, I need you to pull the detention facility's external camera footage from the last hour. Someone in that crowd might be working with Vega. I want to see who showed unusual interest in the processing, who was recording at specific times, who arrived after the video went viral versus who was already here." "Yes, ma'am." Derek moved to the computer, grateful for a concrete task. Stone stepped closer to Kate, his voice low enough that Derek had to strain to hear. "This was riskier than we discussed." "It worked," Kate replied just as quietly. "You let them cuff you. You let them treat you like a criminal. I let them follow procedure. If they deviated, we wouldn't know whether it was incompetence or corruption." Kate glanced at her phone again. "Tasker's in position. Vega just pulled up to the north gate." Stone pulled out his tablet, accessing what appeared to be a live feed. Derek, unable to help himself, leaned slightly to see the screen. It showed the north gate from an elevated angle, security camera footage. A gray Honda Civic approached the checkpoint, moving neither too fast nor too slow, trying to appear normal. Chief Tasker stood near the guard booth, seemingly casual. The gate guard, a young woman barely out of basic training, was checking IDs of the vehicles ahead of Vega. She had no idea what was about to happen. Kate's voice carried through the tactical channel, calm and precise. "All units, target vehicle, approaching north gate. Stand by for intercept on my mark." In the Civic, Ryan Vega's hands were tight on the steering wheel. He was 32, of average build, with the slightly slouched posture of someone who spent too many hours at a computer. His car contained a laptop bag, a change of clothes, and $6,000 in cash he'd withdrawn from an ATM 2 hours ago. He'd deleted his apartment lease this morning. Everything pointed to a man who'd been planning his exit carefully. But he hadn't planned on Alpha 9. He hadn't known that scanning Kate Brennan's biometrics would trigger an immediate alert that bypassed local command and went straight to Naval Criminal Investigative Service. He hadn't known that the woman he had helped set up for humiliation was actually the person conducting an audit specifically designed to find him. Vega reached the checkpoint. The guard smiled, professional but tired from a long shift. "ID, please." He handed over his contractor badge. She scanned it. The system beeped green. "Have a good evening, sir." "You too," Vega said, his foot already moving toward the gas pedal. "Sir, random vehicle inspection." Tasker's voice cut through the moment. He appeared next to the driver's window, his presence somehow making it impossible for Vega to refuse. "Won't take but a minute." Vega's eyes darted to the rearview mirror. The road behind him was clear. He could accelerate, blow through the gate arm, maybe get enough distance to disappear, but Tasker's hand rested casually on the car's roof, and there was something in the old man's eyes that suggested running would be the worst decision Vega could make. "I'm really in a hurry," Vega tried. "I insist," Tasker said. His other hand, not obviously threatening, nevertheless rested near his hip in a way that suggested he was armed and knew how to use it. "Step out of the vehicle, please." Back in the detention facility, Derek watched the screen with Kate and Stone. The tension was palpable. "He's going to run," Derek said. "No," Kate replied. "Tasker's got him." On screen, Vega's body language screamed indecision. His hands gripped the wheel. His eyes moved between Tasker, the gate arm, the mirror. Then Rodriguez appeared in the frame, approaching from the passenger side. 2 more MPs emerged from the guard booth. Vega was surrounded. "He's contained," Stone said. Vega must have reached the same conclusion. His shoulders slumped. He put the car in park. Kate keyed her tactical channel. "Green light to search. Priority is the laptop. Gloves only. Preserve the evidence chain." The MPs moved with efficiency, pulling Vega from the car and conducting a rapid search. They found the laptop bag within seconds, the cash within a minute, and a second phone hidden in the center console within 2. Tasker held up the laptop toward the security camera, giving whoever was watching a clear view. "Target secured," Tasker's voice came through the speakers. "Vehicle contained. Evidence collected." Stone allowed himself a small smile. "That's one hole plugged." "One of them," Kate corrected. She was still watching the feeds, looking for something. Vega's not smart enough to orchestrate the database hack alone. He had help. Someone with deeper access taught him how to alter classification files without triggering normal security alerts. "Your audit's not over," Stone said. "Not even close." Kate pulled up another screen on her phone, this one showing data logs. "But we've got enough to start pulling threads. Vega will talk. They always do when they realize federal espionage charges carry life sentences." Derek, forgotten in the corner, processed everything he'd just witnessed. A stolen valor arrest that turned into a counterintelligence operation. An IT contractor who'd been selling classified personnel information. A woman who'd allowed herself to be humiliated and cuffed because it served a larger purpose. His head spun. "Sir, ma'am," he said carefully. "What happens now?" Kate looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time since Stone arrived. "Now, Sergeant Hollis, you write the most detailed report of your career. Every interaction, every observation, every person in that crowd outside, because some of them just participated in spreading classified information, and we need to know if any of them did it deliberately or if they're all just useful idiots." "And the video?" Derek asked. "The one with 500 shares?" "Naval Criminal Investigative Service will handle containment," Stone said, "but the damage is already done. 47 operatives' covers are potentially compromised because their information was in the files Vega accessed. We'll be doing damage control for months." The weight of that settled over Derek. 47 people. Real operators in real danger because he had arrested someone trying to protect them. Kate must have seen something in his expression because her voice softened slightly. "You followed procedure, Sergeant. That's what you're supposed to do. The failure wasn't yours. It was in the system Vega corrupted." She paused. "But next time someone says they want command present, maybe don't make them sit in cuffs for 20 minutes. It wasn't quite forgiveness, but it was something. Derek nodded, not trusting his voice. Outside, the crowd had finally started to disperse, sensing that whatever had happened wasn't the public spectacle they'd hoped for. Lieutenant Parker had corralled Ethan Cross, who looked increasingly panicked as he realized his viral video moment had transformed into something far more serious. Through the window, Derek could see Parker confiscating Ethan's phone, the younger sailor's protests falling on ears that had stopped caring about his opinion. Kate's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, and something shifted in her expression. "Stone, we have a problem." "Another one?" Vega's last database query before he ran. He wasn't just accessing personnel files. Kate turned the phone so Stone could see. He queried the Blacksite location coordinates. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Stone's face went hard. "When?" 3 hours ago, before I even arrived at the gate." Kate was already typing. "He sent them somewhere. We need to find out where before." Her phone rang. The caller ID showed a number that was nothing but zeros. Kate answered, putting it on speaker. A digitally distorted voice came through. "Director Brennan, congratulations on your successful audit." "Who is this?" Stone demanded. Someone who knows where all 47 of those operators are located, the voice replied. Someone who now has the Blacksite coordinates. Someone who's very interested in negotiating. Kate's expression didn't change, but her hand tightened slightly on the phone. Tower 4. Very good. You've been looking for me. Now you've found me. Or rather, I've found you. The voice carried amusement. Check your secure email. I've sent you a proposal. You have 48 hours to respond before the coordinates go to the highest bidder. The line went dead. The room stood frozen for 3 heartbeats. Then Stone was on his phone, barking orders to lock down communications, to trace the call, to activate security protocols. Kate stared at her phone's screen, at the email notification that had appeared during the call. Derek, watching both of them, realized with growing horror that whatever he'd thought of this situation was, he'd been wrong. This wasn't just about catching one mole. This was bigger, much bigger. Ma'am, he said quietly, what's Tower 4? Kate looked at him with eyes that had seen things he couldn't imagine. The person who's been selling our classified information for the last 18 months. The person we've been hunting since before you made sergeant. The person who just declared war. Outside, the sun had started to set over Naval Base San Diego. The shift change had completed. Thousands of sailors headed home, unaware that in a small detention facility, the fragile illusion of security had just shattered completely. And in a gray Honda Civic at the North Gate, Ryan Vega sat in the back of an MP vehicle, staring at his confiscated laptop, knowing that the information he'd sent might have just triggered something he didn't understand and couldn't stop. The hunt had moved to a new phase. The question was whether they could move fast enough to stay ahead of it. Stone's orders crackled through multiple channels simultaneously. Within 90 seconds, Naval Base San Diego shifted from routine evening operations to heightened security protocols, gate closures, network monitoring, communications lockdown. The machine had awakened, but inside the detention facility processing room, something more immediate was unfolding. Commander Stone stepped through the doorway, his 06 rank insignia catching the fluorescent light. His eyes found Kate immediately, took in the cuffs on her wrists, the biometric scanner still processing on the screen behind her, and the 2 MPs standing at rigid attention. His jaw tightened. Director Brennan, he said, and the title dropped into the room like a depth charge. Why didn't you identify yourself? The word hung in the air. Director. Derek felt his stomach drop. Rodriguez's hand froze on his radio. Lieutenant Parker, who'd been reviewing printouts from the Alpha 9 alert, went completely still. Stone walked to the computer terminal, his movements deliberate. Sergeant Hollis, remove those cuffs, immediately. Derek's hands shook as he fumbled for his keys. The metal clicked open, falling away from Kate's wrists to reveal red marks where the restraints had pressed into skin. She rubbed them absently, still not speaking. Show me the scan results, Stone ordered Parker. Parker pulled up the screen with jerky motions. Stone leaned in, scrolling through pages of security classifications that made both junior MPs exchange confused glances. After a long moment, Stone straightened and pulled a tablet from his jacket. Lieutenant Parker, Sergeant Hollis, Stone's voice carried absolute authority. What you're about to see is classified. You will not discuss it outside this room without direct authorization. Is that understood? Yes, sir, they replied in unison. Stone tapped the tablet screen and turned it toward them. The image showed Kate in full tactical gear, her face partially visible beneath a helmet, standing with a team of operators whose features were digitally obscured. The background was blurred beyond recognition, but the professionalism of the photograph was undeniable. This was official military documentation. Derek's breath caught. That gear wasn't costume shop material. Those weapons weren't props. The woman in the image stood with the relaxed confidence of someone who belonged exactly where she was. Stone swiped to another image. Kate in a different location, different team, same unmistakable presence. Another swipe. Kate standing beside officers whose rank insignia Derek recognized as flag level, all of them in what looked like an operations center. These are classified photographs from operations I don't have clearance to know the full details about, Stone said quietly. What I can tell you is that Director Brennan has been conducting a security audit of this base. An audit I personally requested after we identified anomalies in our personnel database last month. The words landed with physical weight. Derek felt the blood drain from his face. She came through that gate as part of the test, Stone continued. To evaluate how security personnel respond to a potential stolen valor case involving someone with legitimate credentials. He paused, letting that sink in. Your procedures worked. You detained the suspect. You ran biometric verification. You called for command presence. That's exactly what you should have done. But, sir, Parker's voice came out rough. The database showed no military record for her. Because someone altered it, Stone said. Someone with administrative access scrubbed Director Brennan's files from the local system approximately 4 hours before she arrived at the gate. His expression hardened. That's not a system error. That's deliberate sabotage. That's treason. The fluorescent lights seemed to buzz louder in the silence that followed. Outside, faces pressed against the window, the crowd still waiting for justice against the faker, unaware that everything they thought they knew was wrong. Stone set the tablet on the table and looked directly at Kate. Director, I need you to document this officially, for evidence processing. Kate stood, rolled her shoulders once. Understood, sir. Remove your jacket, please. We need clear photographs of all identifying marks for the record. The request sounded routine, procedural, but Derek saw something shift in Stone's expression. A careful deliberation that suggested this wasn't just about documentation. Kate reached for her jacket zipper, pulled it down with smooth precision. As she shrugged the garment off her shoulders, the gray athletic shirt underneath shifted with the movement. The right sleeve rode up her arm, and there it was. The tattoo emerged into view like a revelation. Black ink, professionally done, aged enough to show this wasn't recent work. The trident symbol, rendered with the kind of precision that only came from artists who specialized in military ink. Below it, letters, NISWR Naval Special Warfare, and beneath that, a serial designation in the format Derek recognized from countless official documents. The placement was perfect, upper arm, exactly where regulations specified for personnel who had earned the right to permanent marking. This wasn't some civilian tribute tattoo. This was operator ink, real ink. The kind you got after your third deployment when your team decided you'd proven yourself beyond question. Derek took an involuntary step backward. His mind couldn't reconcile what he was seeing with what he'd believed for the last 45 minutes. This woman, the one he'd cuffed, the one he'd processed like a criminal, the one whose rights he'd read while thinking she was disrespecting everything the Trident stood for. She was the real thing. Rodriguez's sharp intake of breath was audible. Holy cow, he whispered. Through the window, someone in the crowd saw it too. The gasp rippled outward like a shockwave. Phones that had been recording the processing now captured something entirely different. The moment when assumptions shattered against truth. Stone pulled up another screen on his tablet, his movements deliberate. For the record, Director Brennan's file. He angled it so both MPs could see. The header read, "Eyes only, compartmented access required." Below that, an official photograph. Kate in dress uniform, her chest heavy with ribbons Derek recognized, and some he didn't. Her rank, her clearance level, so high it made his head spin. And there, in the assignment section, Blacksite Oversight, Naval Special Warfare Development Group. Stone's voice cut through the stunned silence. She doesn't just wear the trident. He paused, making sure every word landed with full weight. She runs the Blacksite. The words echoed in the small room. Derek felt his knees go weak. He'd arrested a Blacksite director. He'd put handcuffs on someone whose clearance level was so far above his own that he probably shouldn't even know she existed. Outside, Chief Warrant Officer Bill Tasker had pushed his way to the front of the crowd. Through the glass, Derek saw the old veteran's eyes lock onto Kate's exposed tattoo. Recognition flashed across Tasker's weathered features. His hand came up in a crisp salute, the kind of respect that transcended rank and spoke to something deeper. Kate met his eyes through the window. Her own hand rose, returning the salute with the same precision. The gesture lasted only seconds, but everyone watching understood its significance. Stone gestured to Kate. "Show them the rest." Kate reached beneath her shirt collar and pulled out dog tags that had been hidden against her skin. She held them up to the light. Derek could see the stamping clearly now. Her name, her serial number, the same number etched into the tattoo on her arm. "Verification complete," Stone said formally. He turned to Parker. "Lieutenant, I'm sure you can see why Director Brennan's quarters needed to remain intact until the audit was complete." Parker's voice came out hollow. "Yes, sir. I understand, sir." "Do you?" Stone's tone sharpened. "Because from where I'm standing, you authorized the arrest of a federal operative conducting a classified security audit." You detained her based on altered database information, and you did it in front of 20 witnesses, many of whom recorded the entire incident and spread it across social media. The color that had drained from Parker's face somehow found a way to pale further. Stone pulled up another screen. According to system logs, IT specialist Ryan Vega accessed the personnel database 4 hours ago. He modified multiple classification flags, including Director Brennan's records. Then, 3 minutes after her biometric scan triggered Alpha 9, he logged out and left this building. Stone's eyes were hard. He's running. Kate spoke for the first time since Stone arrived. He has a 30-minute head start, maybe 45. He'll try the north gate during shift change, blend with evening traffic. Stone checked his watch, 4:52. 8 minutes until shift change starts. Less if he's smart, Kate said. She pulled the jacket back on, covering the tattoo, but everyone in the room had already burned that image into memory. The question is whether we can stop him before he disappears with everything he's stolen. Derek found his voice, though it came out rough. Ma'am, what did he steal? Kate's eyes met his. Names, faces, cover identities, operational details. Everything needed to target 47 classified operatives currently deployed worldwide. She paused. If that information reaches hostile intelligence services, people die, not eventually, quickly. The weight of those words settled over everyone. Outside, the crowd still murmured, but the energy had transformed from righteous anger to confused uncertainty. Something was wrong. They could feel it, even if they couldn't articulate it. Stone turned to Derek. Sergeant Hollis, you arrested a Blacksite director. Now you get to help catch the person who actually committed treason. Consider this your redemption opportunity. Derek straightened, despite his shock. Yes, sir. What do you need? Kate was already moving, pulling an earpiece from her pocket and fitting it into place with practiced ease. Tasker, you still have clearance for tactical communications? Outside, the old warrant officer touched his ear. What Derek had assumed was a hearing aid suddenly made much more sense. Always, ma'am, Tasker's voice came through the room's speakers. Northgate vehicle checkpoint, Kate said, her tone shifting into something Derek recognized as operational command. Ryan Vega, IT contractor, drives a gray Honda Civic, license plate 7 Charlie Delta 529, stop and detain, non-lethal protocols only, procedure Delta. Understood, ma'am. Through the window, Tasker was already moving toward the parking area, his careful, elderly walk transforming into the purposeful stride of someone decades younger. Stone pulled out his phone, typing rapidly, sending Vega's photo and vehicle description to all gates, orders to stop but not approach until backup arrives. He looked at Rodriguez. Get to North Gate, support Chief Tasker. Vega does not leave this base. If he refuses to stop, you are authorized to disable his vehicle through approved non-lethal means. Clear? Clear, sir. Rodriguez moved toward the door with urgency. Stone turned to Parker. That video currently going viral, the one with 743 shares showing a classified operative being arrested. I want it taken down, and I want the contact information for every single person who distributed it. Some of them just committed a federal crime without knowing it. Parker's face somehow achieved an even more ashen shade. Sir, there are hundreds of shares across multiple platforms. Then you have hundreds of people to track, Stone said without sympathy. Start with Sailor Ethan Cross, the one who started this. Where is he? Outside, sir. In the crowd. Bring him in, now. Do not let him leave this base. Parker practically ran from the room. The moment the door opened, voices from outside flooded in. What's happening? Why did the chief salute her? Did you see that tattoo? The door closed, muffling the confusion. That left Kate, Stone, and Derek in the processing room, surrounded by evidence of a security breach that had just been explosively exposed. What do you think happens when Kate catches the mole? Drop your theories because this case just went federal. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the interrogation footage. And if this story gave you chills, that thanks button helps us bring more real operator stories to light. Part 2 drops next week, and trust me, you need to see what Kate does next. Stone pulled up a tactical feed on his tablet. Tasker's in position, Vega approaching North Gate now. Derek moved closer, unable to help himself. The screen showed an aerial view from a security camera. A gray Honda Civic moved through evening traffic, neither too fast nor too slow, trying to appear routine. Chief Tasker stood near the guard booth, casual but alert. The gate guard checked IDs of vehicles ahead of Vega, unaware of what was about to unfold. Kate's voice carried through tactical channels, calm and precise. All units, target vehicle, approaching checkpoint. Stand by for intercept on my mark. In the Civic, Ryan Vega gripped the steering wheel with white-knuckled hands. He'd been careful, deleted his digital footprint. Withdrawn cash, packed a go bag. Everything pointed to a man who had planned his exit down to the minute. But he hadn't planned on Alpha 9. The Civic reached the checkpoint. The guard smiled, professional. ID, please. Vega handed over his contractor badge. She scanned it. Green light. Have a good evening. You too. Vega's foot moved toward the gas pedal. Sir? Tasker appeared beside the driver window like a ghost. Random vehicle inspection. Won't take a moment. Derek watched Vega's body language on screen. The micro-hesitation, the glance at the rearview mirror, the calculation of whether he could accelerate through the gate arm. I'm really in a hurry, Vega tried. I insist. Tasker's hand rested on the car roof. His other hand, casual but deliberate, positioned near his hip. Step out, please. Rodriguez appeared on the passenger side. 2 more MPs emerged from the guard booth. Vega was boxed in. His shoulders slumped in surrender. The car went into park. Kate keyed her channel. Green light. Priority items are laptop and secondary phone. Gloves only. Maintain evidence chain. The MPs moved with efficiency. Laptop bag from the passenger seat. Cash envelope from the glove box. A second phone hidden in the center console. Tasker held up the laptop toward the security camera. Target secured, Tasker reported. Vehicle contained. Evidence in custody. Stone allowed himself a tight smile. One problem solved. One of several, Kate corrected. She was already pulling up new screens. Vega's not sophisticated enough for this operation. Someone with deeper access taught him how to modify classification files without triggering standard alerts. 20 minutes later, Ryan Vega sat in an interrogation room, his laptop and phone sealed in evidence bags on the table between him and NCIS Special Agent Martinez. Kate watched from observation, Stone beside her. Derek had been allowed to stay, a silent witness to how federal investigations actually worked. Vega had lawyered up immediately, but the evidence spoke louder than any denial. The laptop contained everything. Modified personnel files, encrypted communications with an asset designated Tower 4, payment records showing thousands of dollars transferred through cryptocurrency. He kept an insurance file, Martinez said, scrolling through the data. Complete network map. Every contact, every transaction, every piece of stolen information for the last 18 months. Smart, Kate murmured. Protects him if Tower 4 tried to eliminate loose ends. Can we use it? Stone asked. Already rolling up the network, Martinez confirmed. 6 months of investigation work just landed in our lap. But Derek was watching Kate's expression. She didn't look satisfied. She looked like someone who just confirmed a suspicion she'd hoped was wrong. There's someone else, she said quietly. Someone who told Vega exactly when I'd arrive, exactly which gate I'd use, exactly how to set up the scenario for maximum exposure. Stone's jaw tightened. You suspected this from the start. I hoped I was wrong. Kate pulled up a personnel file. 3 people knew my precise arrival time and route. You, me, and Captain Anderson. Anderson's been here 15 years, Stone said. Decorated record. Aldrich Ames had a good record too, Kate replied. Until he didn't. Derek's head spun with the implications. Another mole, higher up the chain. Someone who had orchestrated this entire scenario. The investigation continued through the night. By 0300 hours, the consequences had begun to cascade. Immediate consequences hit first. Vega was formally charged with espionage, unauthorized access to classified systems, and conspiracy to commit treason. Federal prosecutors were already building a case that would put him away for life. Personal consequences followed. Derek received a formal letter of reprimand for his file, noting procedural failure to verify clearance level before arrest. It stung, but it was fair. Ethan Cross faced investigation for unauthorized disclosure of classified personnel information. His viral video had been scrubbed from social media, but the damage was done. Professional consequences rippled outward. Lieutenant Parker was reassigned pending review of his judgment during the incident. The entire base security team received mandatory retraining on clearance verification protocols and stolen valor response procedures. Community-level changes came swiftly. Stone held a mandatory formation at 0800 hours the next morning. Every sailor on base stood in ranks as he read an official statement. Yesterday, an active-duty naval special warfare operative was detained at our main gate while conducting a classified security audit. Several personnel, acting on incomplete information, recorded and distributed images of this operative across unsecured networks. Those actions, while well-intentioned, constituted unauthorized disclosure of classified personnel information. All copies of related media will be deleted within 24 hours. Anyone who distributed such media should expect to be interviewed by Naval Criminal Investigative Service. The formation stood in shocked silence. Hundreds of sailors processed the implications simultaneously. The woman they'd mocked, the video they'd shared, the laughter they'd joined. All of it had targeted someone who'd been doing her job while they'd been doing the enemy's work for them. Stone continued, his voice carrying across the morning air with deliberate weight. Director Kate Brennan's identity was classified for operational security reasons. Her credentials are legitimate. Her service record is exemplary. Anyone who questioned her status did so because our security systems had been compromised by a hostile actor. That actor is now in federal custody. He paused, letting his gaze sweep across the assembled ranks. This incident will serve as a reminder. Verification before accusation, procedure before pride. The uniform you wear doesn't just represent your own honor. It represents everyone who wears it. When you compromise one, you risk all. At the end of the ranks, Ethan Cross stood with his head down, shoulders hunched under the weight of what he'd done. The phone that had recorded the viral video was now government evidence. The social media accounts that had spread it were under federal review. His future in the Navy hung by a thread. After the formation dismissed, he approached Kate with an NCIS agent as escort. The walk felt like miles. Other sailors gave him wide berth, as if failure might be contagious. He held a written statement his lawyer had helped prepare, though the words felt inadequate for the damage caused. "Ma'am, I need to apologize, officially." His voice shook. The confidence that had carried him through that checkpoint confrontation had evaporated, replaced by the crushing awareness of consequences. "I judged without knowing. I spread information that put lives at risk. I'm sorry." Kate looked at him for a long moment. Her expression gave nothing away. Ethan had expected anger, disgust, perhaps cold dismissal. What he got was something harder to process, measured assessment. She was evaluating whether he understood the lesson or was just performing contrition. "Your instinct to challenge stolen valor wasn't wrong, Petty Officer Cross," she said finally. "Your execution was. Learn from it." The apology was recorded by the NCIS agent. Dated, witnessed, and would be added to his permanent file. A mark that would follow him through every promotion board, every transfer, every security clearance review. The price of viral justice. Institutional consequences followed with bureaucratic efficiency. Within a week, Navy leadership implemented new protocols drafted in emergency sessions at the Pentagon. All stolen valor cases now required 2-factor biometric verification plus clearance database checks before any arrest could proceed. The admiral overseeing naval special warfare personally signed off on the changes, citing Kate's audit as evidence that trust without verification created exploitable vulnerabilities. Kate's audit expanded to 3 additional bases: Norfolk, Pearl Harbor, and Coronado. Her methodology, once questioned by security chiefs who thought it too aggressive, became the gold standard. The procedures she'd tested under fire became standard operating procedure across the fleet. Legacy consequences would take years to fully materialize, but they had already begun. Within months, Kate's audit became a case study taught at security schools from Fort Leonard Wood to Quantico. The Trident pin incident appeared in training materials about the importance of verification before action, the dangers of social media in operational security, and how hostile actors exploited institutional biases. Her name, still partially classified in certain contexts, became shorthand among security personnel. Pull a Brennan meant testing your own system's integrity. Don't get Brennaned meant verify before you escalate. The legend grew with each retelling, details shifting, but the core lesson remaining. Assumptions could be weaponized. 3 days after the incident, Stone called Kate to his office. The building was quieter now, the frenzy of the immediate investigation giving way to the methodical process of federal prosecution. He handed her a file folder, the cover marked with classification stamps that meant most people on base couldn't even acknowledge its existence. Mole identified. Captain Anderson made contact with an encrypted number 40 minutes after you were detained. NCIS traced it to a foreign intelligence service. He's been arrested. Kate opened the folder. Inside, a photograph of a man in an expensive suit, his features sharp and calculating. European, she guessed. Mid-40s. The kind of face that could belong to a dozen different covers. A note attached in precise typewriter font. Asset codename Tower 4. The buyer's still active, Stone continued, settling into his chair with the weariness of someone who'd spent 72 hours managing a crisis. Anderson gave them access codes, but they haven't used them yet, waiting to see if we'd noticed the breach. You're green-lighted to extract. Kate studied the photo, committing every detail to memory. The slight asymmetry of his jaw. The way his eyes didn't quite smile with his mouth. The expensive watch visible on his wrist that suggested either legitimate wealth or excellent legend building. He'll be expecting retaliation. Let him expect it. Stone's expression was grim, carrying the weight of 47 lives hanging in the balance. He threatened 47 operators. He gets what's coming. Kate closed the folder. As she stood to leave, she found Chief Tasker waiting in the hallway outside Stone's office. The old warrant officer straightened slightly when he saw her, his posture shifting from the casual lean of someone wading into something more formal. Their eyes met across the corridor. In that moment, decades of service spoke without words. Tasker had seen her combat breathing at the checkpoint, had recognized the muscle memory, had known, when everyone else saw a faker, that something deeper was happening. He'd trusted his instincts when the crowd had trusted their assumptions. Kate nodded once, acknowledgement and respect combined in the simple gesture. Tasker brought his hand up in a sharp salute, the movement crisp despite his age. The kind of salute you gave to someone who had earned it in ways that transcended rank. Kate returned it with equal precision, her own hand cutting through the air with practiced perfection. No words were exchanged. None were needed. They understood each other in the language of those who had served in places that couldn't be named and done things that couldn't be discussed. That evening, Derek found Kate in the detention facility, collecting the last of her personal effects that had been held as evidence. Her tactical jacket, now documented and photographed from every angle. The challenge coin that had been dismissed as fake, its serial number now verified against Naval Special Warfare Command records. The dog tags that had hung hidden against her skin while he'd questioned her identity. "Ma'am," he said carefully, standing in the doorway as if asking permission to enter a space he'd once controlled. "I know I apologized officially, but I need you to know, personally, that I understand what I did wrong. I saw the surface and made assumptions. I didn't look deeper. I won't make that mistake again." Kate zipped her gear bag with deliberate slowness, giving his words the consideration they deserved. Good, because next time you might not get a second chance to learn that lesson. She paused at the door, meeting his eyes directly. "You followed procedure, Hollis. The system failed you, not the other way around. But now you know, procedures are only as good as the integrity of the people implementing them. Question the system when it doesn't make sense. Trust your instincts but verify them. And remember that sometimes the person who looks least like they belong is exactly where they're supposed to be." She left, her footsteps echoing down the corridor until they faded into silence. Derek stood in the empty processing room, where 3 days ago he'd arrested a woman for wearing a trident pin she'd earned through blood and sacrifice. The same fluorescent lights hummed overhead. The same computer sat on the same desk. Everything looked identical to that afternoon when his world had made sense. But nothing was the same. On the computer screen, security footage played on loop. The moment when Kate's sleeve had ridden up, the tattoo emerging into light like truth breaking through deception. The instant when everything everyone thought they knew had shattered against reality. He'd tested her identity. She'd tested their integrity. The answer to who'd failed was carved into his personnel file now, a permanent reminder that truth and assumption weren't always the same thing. The letter of reprimand would follow him through his career, a scarlet letter in military bureaucracy. But it would also serve as a touchstone, a moment when he'd learned that certainty could be wrong and humility could save lives. And somewhere in the darkness beyond the base perimeter, Tower 4 waited. Kate's next mission was already being planned in rooms Derek would never have clearance to enter. Orders were being cut, assets were being positioned. The hunt continued with the inexorable patience of those who understood that justice wasn't a sprint but a marathon. But this chapter had closed with one absolute certainty. They'd underestimated her once. They wouldn't get the chance to make that mistake again. Justice wasn't loud. It was patient, and it had just shown its teeth. The war continued, but the battle was won.